Paige Bueckers as a player they would most like to start a franchise with. What's your reaction to that?
Well, all those GMs probably going to get fired because this is a money business, and the money is about Caitlin Clark, who is the player who has made, never in the history of the WNBA have we had a player force teams to get into larger arenas. I've never seen that happen. And so if you're the GM, you're obviously supposed to be bringing in money. That's revenue.
Right.
I'm going with Caitlin Clark.
On May 14th, 2026, one of the most legendary figures in women's basketball appeared on ESPN's First Take and delivered a brutally honest opinion. She faced the camera, reacted to the results of a GM survey that had already stirred major debate across the sports world, and made it clear that executives choosing Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark as the centerpiece of a franchise are, as she put it, likely putting their own jobs at risk. Not because Bueckers lacks talent, and not because the survey itself was outrageous, but because in today's sports landscape, failing to recognize the league's biggest commercial superstar can become a costly mistake very quickly for anyone running a professional franchise.
GMs came and saw Paige Bueckers turn a 9-win team into a 10-win team and said, yeah, we'll take her over Caitlin Clark. What? Hey, the WNBA just don't like Caitlin. I get it. It's okay. I get it. She came over here and she made y'all money. More money than y'all ever seen before. But Paige Bueckers came to the Dallas Wings as a 9-win team and turned them into a 10-win team, and the GM said, yeah, that's the one. And Caitlin Clark came into a team that won 13 games and turned them into a 20-win team, and they started off like 2-10 or 3-10 to start the season. And she was the biggest part of that team.
The statistic that truly sparked the controversy was this. The WNBA's yearly GM survey asked what appeared to be a straightforward question, but one loaded with major implications beneath the surface. If you were building a franchise from scratch today and could choose any player in the league, who would you pick? Paige Bueckers finished first with 33% of the votes, while Caitlin Clark earned only 20%. That difference alone was enough to fuel nonstop discussion for days. But the figure that really shocked people was not the 33% or the 20%.
When GMs were asked the same question last year, Caitlin got a whopping 50% of votes, and Bueckers, who then hadn't played a WNBA game yet, didn't get any. Even more surprising is that Chelsea Gray got 73% of votes this year when GMs were asked which point guard they believe is the best in the WNBA. Clark was second at 20%. Last year, Gray and Clark were tied at 50%. Granted, Caitlin was coming off an injury-plagued 2025 season and obviously has a lot to prove. But this shift in perception...
The number that really stunned people was 50, because just 1 year earlier, in that very same survey, Caitlin Clark had captured 50% of the vote. Half of the league's general managers looked at her and immediately viewed her as the obvious choice to build a franchise around. Then, only 12 months later, her support had fallen by 30 percentage points. She went from being the overwhelming favorite to finishing a distant second. As soon as those results surfaced online, the sports media world did not cautiously ease into the debate. IT jumped directly into the chaos.
As we look at the WNBA, we know there's a lot of great players that preceded Caitlin Clark, that paved the way for the Caitlin Clarks, and they're to be respected and appreciated and all of this other stuff. But I was one of those people that felt Caitlin Clark should have been on Team USA. I was thinking about the profile of women's basketball. Anything that could uplift the profile and give more notoriety and more shine to women basketball players everywhere, it would help the...
Stephen A. Smith, known for building his career on loud, unfiltered opinions, didn't overthink his response when the WNBA GM survey came up on First Take. When asked whether he would choose Caitlin Clark or Bueckers to build a franchise around, he answered instantly. Clark, no hesitation, no qualifiers, no attempt to soften the stance. He made it clear that the reasoning goes beyond pure basketball skill. A franchise cornerstone isn't just a basketball decision. It's a business one. IT affects revenue, marketing power, ticket sales, and the ability to consistently fill arenas. From that perspective, he suggested the answer becomes much less of a debate and more of an obvious conclusion. Smith recognized that reality immediately, and so did the people sitting across from him at the desk.
She talked business and sense. She talked dollar signs. She said, y'all know we're in a money-making business, right? Y'all know we're in a industry that people want to get paid in, right? You know who's going to help you guys get paid the most? You know who's going to pack the arenas the most? You know who's going to get you the most sponsorship deals, the most advertisement deals, the most exposure, the most jersey sales, the most merchandise? Do you know who's going to do that for you guys? It ain't PB.
Lisa Leslie backed her argument with straightforward evidence, and the strongest point she made was also the clearest. She noted calmly that Caitlin Clark is the only player in WNBA history who has caused opposing teams to relocate home games to larger venues simply to meet fan demand for tickets. Not just in recent years, and not just in a short stretch of seasons, but across the entire 30-year history of the league, she stands alone in that regard. Teams have been forced to switch arenas because the usual locations couldn't accommodate the surge of people wanting to see her play in person. That kind of demand carries major implications for a franchise. IT directly affects revenue, sponsorship value, local media attention, merchandise sales, and every other factor tied to a team's financial success. Leslie didn't rely on complex analysis or data models. She used a single, undeniable fact to make her point clear. And once that fact was laid out, it became very difficult to dispute.
Right here, Twitter will tell you the one at the top is having a subpar season and underachieving. The bottom one is putting first team all WNBA numbers. Caitlin Clark is obliterating page backers through these first couple of...
While the media debate focused on surveys, rankings, and franchise projections, the players at the center of it were busy doing what they do best, competing at a high level. On May 9th, 2026, in the WNBA season opener between the Dallas Wings and the Indiana Fever, both Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers set the tone immediately. From the opening possession, the game carried a playoff-like intensity rather than the usual early season feel of teams still settling in. Both players finished with 20 points, trading momentum in a tightly contested battle that went down to the final minutes, with Dallas ultimately edging out a 107-104 win. The atmosphere matched the anticipation that had been building around this matchup for months. Physical, competitive, and back and forth throughout, the game delivered exactly the kind of drama fans had been expecting. For anyone questioning whether the Clark-Bueckers storyline was real or just media-driven hype, this opener offered one of the clearest answers possible. Inside that loss, there was still a milestone worth noting. In the season opener against Dallas, Caitlin Clark quietly reached 1,000 career points despite a career already disrupted by injuries, including a 13-game season in 2025 that limited her time on the court. She returned in a nationally televised matchup against Paige Bueckers and hit the milestone without turning it into a celebration, continuing to compete as the game went on. For her, the achievement wasn't the focus. It was just another step in an ongoing journey.